This week, we head into the darkest, deepest, scariest parts of the world, the internet, as we take a look at some of the self-proclaimed scariest Reddit horror stories and talk about some of the upcoming horror movies coming to theaters near you. You'll always have to wonder, should we skip to the people dying? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's another episode of Should We Skip to the People Dying? Yay! Woohoo! Clapping. I don't know if you can hear me clapping. Yeah! Woo! I'm so excited to be here. I don't know about you, Remy.
I am very excited to be here.
We're off to a hot start. My name's Ethan Herzog. I'm joined alongside my co-host.
Hi, I'm Remy DeAngelis.
And if you can't tell already, I am on my second caffeinated drink of the day, and am still getting over being sick. So this is, if you can sort of hear it, but it's fine. Everything's fine. I don't feel like complete death anymore. Yeah. Hooray. We're not skipping to me dying, thankfully. Haha. Jokes about our own podcast. It's fine.
I laughed. You just didn't hear it.
The mic didn't pick up the laugh. It was so funny that the mic laughed too, and that's why you didn't hear Remy laughing. So
exactly.
Today's agenda is slightly different. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that we are going to forego the Letterboxd reviews, which is very saddening to me. I just did not pick a movie out, to be completely honest. But what we are going to do is, obviously, there's plenty of movies coming out. We're going to briefly jump into a couple of them, and then we're going to start reading some Reddit stories, which, to preface, there's no rhyme or reason why we picked these. It's really just a matter of we wanted to do Reddit stories. Well, I did, and Remy said, okay, so that's kind of
here for the ride.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where we're at. I figured we could spice it up a little bit, and like I said about the no rhyme or reason thing, if you do have a story that you want us to read on the podcast, feel free to reach out to me specifically on pretty much all social medias at Herzog Sports, or you can reach out to the account on Twitter, Should We Skip Pod, and let us know if there's a story that you're like, oh, this is really cool, and we want you to read this and dissect it and all that stuff. Remy, I don't know if you want to give out your socials because you don't social media like that.
Yeah, I would. It's just, as a teacher, all of my things are private anyway.
Yeah.
So no one would really reach me.
That's kind of the odds of the spectrum that we're at right now, is that I am, for lack of better term, an influencer, not a very popular one. And I feel like I do the term influencer a disservice by saying I am one. But I do work in sports, and I do have a personality, and I do have a slight following. So, Remy, on the other hand, teaches kids. And if her kids saw all the social medias, that's a whole different can of worms and, things.
Not that there's anything bad on them.
No. But
I had enough students who have added me to group chats in the past that I don't want to be on their social medias either. So
yeah, no, I don't think that's a great place to be, especially on social medias of children under the age of 14. I think, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Not fun at all.
No.
And also to kind of jump around all over the place because ADHD, haha. Anyway, thank you all for the 5-star reviews that we've gotten on Spotify, and I believe one on Apple Podcasts. Maybe I'd have to double check. The reviews mean a lot. To not really for our egos, but just in general. In the words of James Petrogallo and Jimmy Wisman of Small Town Murder, it doesn't really do anything for our egos. It really just boosts our following, and the algorithms get happy. So every 5-star review means a lot. And if you would like to, feel free to drop a 5-star review. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We don't really care. As long as you're listening, that's all we really care about. But enough of me rambling on, because that's all I ever do with my time.
Amen.
We've got a couple of movies coming out, and we've only picked 2 of the, God, I don't even know, like 20 that are coming out in the next couple of months. I wanted to talk briefly about Evil Dead Burn because I have not a strong affinity for the Evil Dead franchise, but I do love the Evil Dead franchise. Just, I mean, from what it was way back in the first one to what it is now, because the first couple are like campy, cheesy, not quite slasher, but like, you know, they're the horror movies you're like, yeah, this is really, like, it's dumb, it's not really that scary, like practical effects and all that stuff. And then they remade everything, and now it's like disgusting and brutal, and I mean, I love it. I love both of the movies. I mean, you can't really discount any of the Evil Dead movies because they're all so great in their own ways. But especially after Evil Dead Rise, a movie that I saw, the first Evil Dead movie I saw in theaters, Evil Dead Burn, I think, is going to be a fantastic next installment of this franchise. And I'm also going to say this too, and how some franchises, i.e. Scream, as much as I love Scream, it's been milked to hell and back.
Yes.
And I love Scream, and like, I've been seated for every single movie. I've seen 5, 6, and 7 in the theaters. I love 7 against all of the hate that it gets for, you know, whatever reason or another and all that stuff. But it's been milked. I think Evil Dead has the chance to really be one of those franchises where, like, yes, there's a lot of movies in it, but everything is different enough to where it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like, in a way, Final Destination, which is not to say that Evil Dead and Final Destination are the same movie, because they're not, but
no.
Final Destination, there's what, like 9 of them now?
Yes.
They're coming out with a 9th one soon, but they're all,
I think they're coming out with a 10th, I thought.
Something like that. I can't remember, but like
It's one of them.
They're so fundamentally different that the movies can exist on their own. And obviously, like Final Destination Bloodlines, like it has the whole like plot tie-in and all that stuff, which was neat. And you know, having only seen like a singular other Final Destination, I was like, oh, it's funny. I get the reference. But
and Tony Todd coming back for his last movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that man.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think that going back to Evil Dead is that it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a blood spattered affair that's going to be absolutely fantastic and another must watch in theaters.
I agree. I
mean, like, come on. Let's talk about Obsession for a third time. I mean, come on. Have we seen how Obsession's doing, guys? Like, it's projected to be over $330 million. It's the 9th most grossing horror film ever. Like, hello? It's insane. And oh my God, I will literally rave about this movie until the dawn of time. Like
Amen.
I think it was that good. And some people are like, oh, yeah. I'm like, no, it was great. Like, this is like a fantastic movie that I saw a tweet that someone was like, this needs to be studied in film schools. And I mean that in like a serious note. And I'm like, absolutely it does. It does a great job with not just the acting, but the cinematography and everything else. And I've literally ranted about the cinematography and Indy Navarrete multiple times. There is the third mention of Indy Navarrete, like I mentioned in the last episode. It's fine. I knew it was coming, and it's inevitable. It'll probably happen a 4th time. Let's be so real. But that is.
And it just needs to be an Easter egg.
I think it does. I'm just gonna like start whispering just Indy Navarrete, and like if you hear Indy Navarrete during the show, you'll get a prize. Like fucking say the timestamp.
Like Psych?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny
with all the pineapples.
Yes, like with all the pineapples. Like it's so dumb. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on about Evil Dead Burn because, Remy, you picked a movie that you are excited for, and I believe it's the new Insidious, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. Insidious Out of the Further. So don't get me wrong. I love Patrick Wilson. I've loved him since I was, 3 or 4 years old when I watched Phantom of the Opera, the movie version, for the first time. Love that he's in horror as well. I'm excited that they're kind of rebooting it because Patrick Wilson isn't in this one. I think, from what I remember, the only returning person, it looks like, is the woman who plays Elise, the psychic who dies in the first one.
The grandma?
Yes,
Or
not the grandma,
but like the old lady.
Yes. Which, Gilf Girl I Love Fruit is from Insidious 2.
I do know that. That's the collective of our audience has no idea what the fuck you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about, and that's all that matters.
GILF stands for Girl I Love Fruit. That is the only thing you need to know. That's it.
That is it. That is in fact it.
But I love the Insidious movies. I really liked the last one where Dalton's in college and he still sees the red door in his dreams, and they finally close the door using his art and close it. But I love that they're rebooting it at the same time. I'm excited to see, well, kind of rebooting it. I'm excited to see where the new turn takes, especially without Dalton, his Patrick Wilson, and everyone else.
I mean, I think that, because like I also agree, Patrick Wilson is amazing. I love Patrick Wilson so much, but I also think that in terms of, going back to the franchises that have a million movies in them, Insidious I think is doing the right thing. They're starting pretty much fresh. It's the same concept. It's the same, haunting imagery, same universe. You only have one character that that honestly probably just makes a cameo, and that's it. And it's in the trailer, so it's there. And like, I think it's gonna be fantastic. I have no doubt in my mind that it's at least worth a watch. Like, I think this is how I gauge how I should see movies, and it in theaters, that is. And it's, if I think that I would go pay for it without my AMC stub subscription, I will go see it in theaters. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously, like, the whole point of AMC stubs is like you pay the $25 a month and you get 4 free movies a week and all that stuff, which is great. And then you get to go and see movies that you wouldn't normally see. But for movies like that, I'm like, okay, I would totally go see this otherwise. Like, literally, Obsession, I have now seen 4 times in theaters. And
jealous.
Oh, I know. But I went and I saw it at a Cinemark, and I paid for it. That's how good that movie is. Because I was
give them their money.
It was the whole thing with, like, my friends were meeting somewhere else, and that was a spot, and I was like, okay, whatever. And, like, not a bad theater. I didn't hate it. Cinemark's great, sort of. I don't know. I prefer AMC. AMC's great. I love my AMC. I love my stubs. I've been a stubs member for, oh God, what now? 3 years.
And you convinced me to get AMC.
I did. I convinced you and our friend Remy to get AMC stubs, and
my friend Remy.
Well, you're here. Oh wait, Katie. I meant Katie.
There you go.
It's fine. Brain not here. It's fine. Anyway,
I'm just kidding.
This is the way the episode's gonna be this week, folks. Buckle up. It's time to get rowdy. Anywhoozy, what's it? I think it's enough discussion on the movie side of things, and now it's time. I'm debating on how often I want to do this, but what we're going to do now is we're going to go onto Reddit, scary enough as it is, Reddit, God.
Yeah.
But we're going to r/NoSleep, which famously, if you know anything about r/NoSleep, it's pretty much a place where people share the quote unquote scariest personal experiences that they've had, and whether they're true or not is up for debate and all that stuff. But I want to do this semi regularly, where we read horror stories, because sometimes, like, the movies are great and I love the movies and I love the games and all that stuff, but, like, sometimes the scariest shit is the stuff that happens supposedly in real life. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to kind of just go off the wall, because sometimes those are scarier than the scariest movies. Like, oh, this guy experienced this whole thing, and then, that kind of stuff. But do I know how often it's going to happen? No. Will I announce it? Probably not. You're just going to figure it out as we figure it out, because honestly, this is a passion project, for a lack of better description, and we're doing it for fun, and we, would obviously love to be big and successful and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's a podcast. This is an oversaturated field that we're kind of diving into. we're having fun. We're sharing our fun horror experiences with the world, and that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, enough of me rambling again. So sorry. But
amen.
I'm going to step aside. I'll input my feedback as needed. But now so we've each picked 2 stories. We're going to take turns. Remy's going to go first. Remy, what do you got?
All right. Okay. Really quickly, a warning. I am probably going to be the worst reader ever, so bear with me. We're getting through this together. So this one is called...
That's what editing's for. It's okay.
You're so right. You're so right. All right. So this one's called Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone. And I would just like to point out that Gary is spelled with a G. That is going to kill me. It did kill me last night when I read it at 3 a.m, as one should. But I had to point that out. And it's by red_grin. All right. I didn't know Will could draw. I remember thinking as my friend's hand quickly moved across the page, and then I looked more closely at Will's impromptu sketch, and I immediately regretted it. I tried to unsee it. I shifted my attention to other things around me, anything at all that wasn't ink on the page. The blur of Will's hand, the bead of sweat gathering at his temples, the gentle autumn breeze creeping through the crack of the window. Don't look at the page, just don't look at it. But I knew I had to, so I looked. And it was worse than I expected, much worse. Will had sketched a near carbon copy of those wartime Uncle Sam posters, except not quite. The suit was there, bow tie, check, but no Uncle Sam head. The Uncle Sam body had the head of a goat. The animal flashed a welcoming, toothy smile. A hoof pointed at me, nearly coming right out of the page, but it didn't want me to join the U.S. Army, no. This goat-headed creature had something else in mind. I want your kids. Under this declaration, in a slightly smaller letters, it read, "At Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone, opening soon."
What the fuck?
I've never heard of Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone before yesterday. The place, I quickly learned, played host to a significant moment in Will's childhood. And although I'd been good friends with him for 15 years, he'd never told me the story. But today, he opened up. I wasn't trying to reopen any wounds from his past. I just wanted him to tell me a story. Any story. I'd been listening to a lot of NPR. And being inspired by their storytelling segments and slices of American life. I purchased some professional recording equipment and set up a makeshift studio in my house. My goal was to capture and archive the stories of my friends, relatives, really anyone who had something to say. Sounds familiar, honey, Ethan?
Yeah, a little bit. Considering what we're doing right now. Anyway, continue.
Exactly. Okay. Call it boredom. I was a widower with a 7-year-old son. Besides doting on my kid, I needed something productive to fill the time. My recording area was cozy, just a couple microphones, a small table, a few chairs. I'd sit a few feet from my interview subjects. The intimacy would induce real honesty and emotion. That was the plan, and it worked a little too well. I never thought my storytelling experiments would go so wrong so quickly. And it wasn't just Will's story and his sketch of the Uncle Sam human-goat hybrid thing. Before I'd interview Will, I heard another version of Will's event from the other person involved in the Family Fun Zone incident, Will's wife and my good friend Caroline. Caroline and I dated for a little while in college, a stretch of time we now joke occurred in a parallel universe. We were never supposed to happen, we decided. Instead, there was some sort of cosmic hiccup and different universes intersected for the briefest of times. Our relationship was over before it started. Caroline then began dating Will. The two lived happily ever after, and the 3 of us have been close ever since. Caroline and Will's history predated our collective experience in college. The 2 went to high school together, but I never knew exactly what they'd experienced as classmates and friends, not until I set up my little recording studio. I interviewed Caroline first, and Will's interview occurred the following day. Both of my friends requested I not tell the other about the contents of their respective interviews. I'm certainly not planning on it. Both interviews were long and free-ranging. I'll just transcribe the relevant portions of their stories, the stuff about relationships and about Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone. It is important that these stories be shared in some form. All right, here is the excerpt of Caroline's interview. So how did you and Will meet? We went to the same schools growing up, but we weren't friends or anything like that. You know how you kind of know everyone you went to school with, but most people are just on the periphery? That was Will. Always there, but not really. We ran with different circles. You can't pinpoint the moment you actually met for the first time? I can't remember the first meaningful interaction we had, though I was writing for the school paper, and God, I can't believe I actually wrote for the school paper because I was a terrible, just horrible writer, and I was researching a story. It was a legend in our town, something all the kids talked about but no one could prove. Did you have any of those? I think so. I'd have to think about it, but I'm sure I had some. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. One of those, oh, my brother's friend's mechanic had this experience type thing. It was pretty famous growing up where we did. Kind of a spooky story to scare kids from staying out late at night or running around doing irresponsible things. It was this place called Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone. She laughs. Gosh, I haven't thought about that place in years. Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone? Just saying it out loud sounds so weird, right? Just completely and utterly made up. And when we got older, most of us thought that it was made up because it was just a silly and stupid legend. So of course, it would have a ridiculous name. What was the legend? It's been so long, but from what I can remember, it was a children's play zone type place that existed in the late 70s or early 80s. No one could pinpoint it, but the story was this guy, Gary something, but everyone called him Uncle Gary, inherited a piece of land out in the woods from his grandfather. He took all of his money and turned it into the fun zone. You know, slides, games, trampolines, kind of like an indoor rec place, but all barnyard themes. So the place looked like a red and white barn with a silo, but inside was all the kid stuff. He built this out in the woods. That's what everyone said, but the messed up part was what happened there. Apparently, like 30 some years ago, a kid slid down the slide and it just vanished into the ball pit. Like there was no trace of him. I think he was only 4, maybe 5. I can't remember for sure. Anyway, they emptied the ball pit and everything. The only thing at the bottom was a trapdoor and a crawl space that led nowhere. It's just a dead end. No one knew why it was there, but yeah, the kid vanished, the town freaked, Gary split, and the place shut down. And that really happened? Every kid in town believed it. The story was that it was some sort of hellhole that sucked down small children, that it needed to be fed. Like it swallowed up that kid, and if anyone went near the place, it would swallow you up too. Don't explore too far from home or you'll stumble across Uncle Gary's. But you get past middle school and you think it's all bullshit. Was it bullshit? You said you were writing a story about it for the newspaper and you met Will. Yeah, so I decided to write about Uncle Gary's, and Will heard about it. He joined the newspaper club because he wanted to help. She laughs. I think he just wanted to spend time with me, but he helped me with my research. We talked to people, looked at newspapers, spent a lot of time in those creepy library stacks. That's where Will held my hand for the first time. God, we were so young. Did you find anything? Nothing. There was no record of the place. We even talked to the police department. They had nothing. Did they know what you were talking about? Oh yeah, everyone had heard of Uncle Gary's, and everyone was really nice about helping us, but nothing factual existed. My article was going terribly. It was all dead ends. Was that what you expected? I don't know what I expected. I just thought it'd be a cool article. So I had a lot of interviews of people telling the stories, and I was going to write this oral history type article. But then, God, I haven't thought about this in years. Will came to me. He said he knew where the fun zone was. He said he had directions to a place that didn't exist. Will said that it did. It was out in the woods, down some roads that weren't on the map. How did he get those directions? It's been so long, I honestly can't remember. Did they fall out of some ancient book at the library? I think that's what happened, but he had them. Did you go there? I've never told anyone this. No one. I can't believe I'm telling you right now. Will and I haven't talked about it since it happened. Wow, really? It's okay. We don't have to keep going. No, it's fine. It's just... Seriously, Caroline, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you or ruin your marriage by making you dredge up these terrible memories. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's okay. I want you to know. She pauses. I want you to know. It wasn't supposed to be there. It just wasn't. What happened was Will was going to go there first to make sure it was safe, and I'd meet him there later on. And I did. I followed directions perfectly, down all these forgotten dirt roads that used to be real roads, right turn at a rock the size of a Volkswagen, go 3/4 of a mile and take a left at the pine tree with the down limb, stuff like that. All landmark stuff. But the directions were perfect. I drove what felt like forever down this bumpy road, and it just ended. Nowhere else to go. And there was Will, standing at the side of the road next to his car, hands jammed in his pockets. And he had this look in his eyes. He just looked different. It's almost like after that night, there was 2 Wills. The first Will, who had worked on the story, helped me research, and held my hand in the library. He was so sweet, just so shy, tender, innocent. But after that night, he changed forever. Like he never looked at me the same way again. And we've been married now for 9 years and together since junior year of college, so 13 years. And he's never looked at me this way he looked at me in that basement of the library back in high school. It was that night at the fun zone that changed him. I know it. It was that night. Caroline, have you ever thought about us? Like, what if our parallel universe had fully intersected forever with the real one and we were together? I haven't. Look, I think I should stop recording. Please don't. It's just me and Will, 9 years, no kids, no babies, and he just doesn't look at me like he's supposed to. He's supposed to give me a baby, and we're supposed to be living the love story, but something went wrong, and it all started that night. What happened on that night, I mean? I pulled off the side of this dirt road that no one had driven on in probably decades, and like I said, Will just seemed different. I asked him if he'd found it, and he said that it was there. Uncle Gary's family fun zone was there. Will grabbed 2 flashlights from his car, and we followed a path through some brush. And it kind of emerged before us, nestled in the trees. The barn, the silo, everything. It was so strange. It was almost like it materialized. That makes sense. It was dark, so yeah, I know what you mean. And there was this picket fence around the place, and each board was painted either yellow, green, or light purple, and it held up better than it should have. The paint should have completely peeled off, or maybe the whole thing should have just fallen down, but it was in good shape. Did you go inside? I mean, we came all that way, right? The main entrance was this huge wooden double door, probably 15 feet high, and above it was the sign, Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone, with this picture of a cartoon farmer with a piece of straw hanging from his mouth. And the sign had been vandalized. Someone had spray-painted X's over the farmer's eyes, and nearly every letter had been scribbled out. Everything except for fun, but the F had been turned into an R, and an exclamation point was added. So it just read, run. So we weren't the first people that'd been there, and I remember thinking, I don't know if this makes me feel better or worse. Who went in first? Will did. He pushed open the door, and it creaked the whole time. I was nervous someone would hear it, but we were out in the middle of nowhere, you know? So that was kind of dumb. Will raised his flashlight and jumped backwards into me, and we were staring at this giant goat statue made of fiberglass. Had to have been 7 feet tall. It was standing on its hind legs with the other front legs reaching out, like it was hugging something invisible. I guess it was a photo op, you know, stand inside it, take your picture, and they were everywhere. What was everywhere? Fiberglass farm animals, goats, sheep, cows, pigs, all standing on 2 legs, all of their front legs extended. They were scattered around the whole place, almost like soldiers keeping watch. Most of them were covered with some black soot substance. I ran my hand across one of the sheep. The soot was probably a ½ inch thick. I still remember it trickling through my fingers. It was wet and almost gooey. I honestly don't know what it was. What else was inside? Slides. They were everywhere. Slides, jungle gyms, swinging bridges, a basketball court. We crept around for I don't know how long, but just not believing it was real. And it was just so dark and utterly silent. We got turned around so many times, it felt like we were going deeper and deeper. And I know this doesn't make sense, but it felt like we walked longer than we should have. Like the place was bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. At one point, I remember looking back at Will and saying, it's like a maze in here. And right at that moment, we almost ran into a sign that said Uncle Gary's Amazing Cornstalk Maze. We were right at the entrance to a maze, but it wasn't made of corn. The walls were wooden with cornstalks painted on them, and there was no way we were going in there. Not a chance. Did you find the ball pit? We did. It was at the bottom of the tallest and widest slide in the whole place, right in the center of the barn. And the pit was just massive. Had to have been 40 feet wide and maybe 6 feet deep. But it was empty, no plastic balls, just a giant barren pit, and there was a ladder going down into it. And from where we were standing, we saw the hatch. Will looked at me, and he just kind of shrugged, and he said, this is why we're here, right? We climbed down, and as we walked towards the hatch, our feet echoed. But it was a different kind of echo, like it died quickly, too quickly, almost like something was sucking away the noise. I can't believe you guys did this. I guess it was adrenaline. Our flashlights were directly on the hatch, and it had one of those round steel rings. No lock. We stared at it for a while without saying anything, almost like we were expecting it to start pulsating or to pop open. But we wanted to know what was inside. Had to know. So we decided to do it together. We grabbed the steel ring with both hands and pulled it up. I thought I'd be greeted by the bones of that dead kid, but there was only the smell that rushed us. It was very cold and crisp, and with a tiny whiff of sulfur. Will hopped right in, and I reluctantly followed. The stories were all true. It was a crawl space to nowhere. We crouched down and crawled about 20 feet, and the tunnel just ended. Nothing but a smooth steel wall. We ran our hands across it. Maybe we'd find a secret handle or trigger a button or something, but there was nothing. And then we heard the noise from above. Holy God. Something had jumped in the pit, because the first thing we heard was the single reverberating thud. It was unmistakable, and then the footsteps directly above us, walking towards the hatch. We killed our flashlight and pressed our backs into the steel. Will put his arm around me and covered my mouth, and I did the same to him. My legs started trembling and bouncing on the floor, and Will grabbed it, steadying it. We listened as the footsteps got closer to the hatch, and then they just stopped. And I wanted to look down the tunnel. I did, but I didn't want whatever was there to see the whites of my eyes, because I was terrified it would give me away. But I felt its presence across the tunnel. I knew it was there. I felt it leaning down and staring at us. I'm sure about that. I even heard it breathing softly. Did he say anything? No, it just watched us for a while, and I never opened my eyes. And the next thing I remember is the hatch slamming shut and both Will and I jumping and hitting our heads on the crawl space ceiling. We stayed there silent for, it had to be an hour. We eventually worked up the courage to crawl to the other end in pitch black, and I was praying, just praying, that this thing or person or whatever wasn't inside this crawl space with us. We were too scared to even turn on our flashlights. Every inch we crawled, I thought, this is it. I'm going to reach out and feel something warm and snarling. But we made it to the end, and we slowly raised the hatch. Thank God it hadn't locked us inside. We climbed out and we ran, just ran. I don't even remember my legs moving beneath me. I remember it being, I was in the crawl space, now I'm outside, now I'm in the car. Just like that, we were safe. Did you tell anyone about this? Did you write this article? Will followed me home. We promised each other to never talk about it again. We were done. No article, nothing. Why not? I think we stumbled across something we were never meant to see, and something knew we were there, and I think it let us off with a warning. We didn't want to make it mad. We were given a second chance. Just keep calling it it. Is there a reason for that? Just a hunch, just the sounds it made when it walked, the vibe it gave off. It didn't feel human. I honestly can't believe you haven't talked about this thing since high school. You or Will haven't brought it up, not once. I love Will, but it changed him. It changed me. She pauses. How long has it been since Grace died? 15 months. And you two didn't have any secrets or things you didn't talk about? We talked about everything, at least for my part, and I'm sure she wasn't keeping anything from me. What's that like, to have a marriage like that and a child to love? I think what we had was rare, and Tyler is my world. He's my everything. Do you ever think... I turned off the recording. Caroline was traveling down a road that I had no interest in going, so she left shortly thereafter, making me promise to not share anything with Will. I gave her my word. At one point, I dropped the digital recording of our interview in the trash icon and hovered over the empty button for a few seconds, but I couldn't do it. I dragged it back into a folder on my desktop. Will came by the next day for his interview. It began plainly enough. The first 20 minutes focused on his grade school years, his basketball playing days in college, and his love of 80s action movies. Nothing revolutionary, nothing deep. That quickly changed. The interview direction veered towards love and marriage. I tried to avoid it, but it came up organically. Will hesitated, contemplating. I'd hoped we'd detour right around it, but he looked at me sharply in the eyes and said, "Have you ever heard of Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone?" I lied and I told him that I hadn't. He grabbed a sheet of paper from my desk and sketched out the Uncle Sam type flyer from the Cursed Children's Fun Zone. That's where the interview excerpt kicks in. So this is Will's interview. And it's shorter, don't worry. So, this is Will. I was sitting in class, I think it was Spanish, and I look over and this beautiful girl in the row next to me is furiously scribbling in her notebook, and she's drawing this. Will holds up the sheet of paper. It's the Uncle Sam figure. I can't explain it, but I was drawn to it. There was something about it. So I stopped him after class and I asked her, "What's Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone?" Because I'd never heard of the damn place. What, was it a place in town? That's the thing. It apparently was some kid's play area place in the 1970s. And some little kid drowned in the ball pit, if that makes sense. Caroline told me the whole story, saying it was the most famous legend in our town, and she was writing a newspaper story about it. But I'd never heard of it. I asked all my friends, my parents, teachers, and I always got the same response. What are you talking about? And that made me more curious. Is this beautiful girl putting me on, or does she have a wild imagination? Because according to Caroline, this legend was as famous as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or whatever. Are you sure you weren't asking the right people? Google it. You'll find absolutely zero about Uncle Gary's Family Fun Zone. And if a legend is that famous, wouldn't it have some presence on the internet nowadays? Anything at all? Zero results. That's pretty incredible. And back then, it wasn't just people I knew. I joined the newspaper club mainly out of this incredible fascination to find out more about this girl and why she was obsessed with this legend that didn't exist. And we interviewed dozens of people for the story, historians, cops, librarians. We got a lot of strange looks. No one had ever heard of Uncle Gary's, which only made me more curious. Did you guys get together? I knew you were dating in college. I didn't know you had a history. Not really. I mean, almost. Caroline had this pull on me that was hard to explain. We were spending a lot of time together, and she was gorgeous and funny and motivated, man, just motivated to find out more about this Uncle Gary's place. And I liked it. Even when I thought she was maybe a little crazy, I liked it. But she wasn't crazy. So it was real? Here's the thing. We had no clues or leads, and I was just hoping she'd give up, drop the whole thing and we could start dating and doing normal teenage things or whatever. But one night, and shit, I haven't thought about this in forever, I was up cramming late for a test, and I see this bundled up old guy walking down my street, just kind of putzing along. And the guy looks like he's over 200 years old. And he stops in the end of my driveway, reaches into his overcoat, pulls something out that slips in my mailbox. And I was like, what the hell is this? I stand up and he snaps his head and looks right at me. It was freaky, just freaky. I dive down on the floor and don't have the balls to look outside for another 10 minutes. By that point, he was gone. What did he put in the mailbox? I found in the morning it was directions scribbled on a napkin. Weird-ass directions, like drive down this dirt road and look for the tallest tree, then turn right type of directions. I immediately knew it had something to do with Uncle Gary's. I just knew it. Did you tell Caroline? Here's the thing, He pauses. And this will sound terrible, and I can't believe I'm telling someone, but here's what happened. This Uncle Gary's thing had been going on for weeks, and I knew I said I liked the fact that Caroline was obsessed over it, but things turned weird quick. She kept coming over to my house to hang out, but she didn't seem too interested in me. She was more interested in my brother, who was 2 at the time. And God, it's hard to explain. It wasn't like normal, I like playing with your brother thing. It was creepy. The way she looked at him, it's almost like she needed him for something. Then that she was going to snatch him, like we'd come home one day and David would be gone. It was because Caroline took him. Wow, I don't expect you to understand any of this. It doesn't make any sense, but I felt it. I'm telling you, it was real. In my heart, I had the hideous feeling that it all related to Uncle Gary's family fun zone obsession. I thought Caroline was looking for this place and was going to offer it my brother as some kind of sacrifice. Just saying it sounds so messed up. You probably think I'm yanking her chain. I mean, this is my wife we're talking about. This is Caroline. It's fine. You don't sound like you're lying. I wouldn't. Not about this. Did you tell anyone? No. They'd probably think I was the crazy one. The whole thing was insane beyond belief, but I had to know what she was up to. So here's what I did. I told Caroline I'd found direction to Uncle Jerry's. Or Gary's. Where am I? Told her they had both been folded up into some library book about the town's history or something. I gave her directions to the place and I told her I'd check it out first. But here's the thing. I gave her the wrong directions. What do you mean? I made them up, wrote down a bunch of gibberish that led miles out of town in the opposite direction. And then I followed my directions, the ones the old man left me. And they led me right to it. It was real, this Uncle Gary's place. It was real, man. It made no sense. And then Caroline showed up. With the wrong directions? I'll never forget it. Seeing her car pull up, she should have been 40 miles away, but here she was. And that's when I knew. There was something wrong about her, something wrong about that old man, something wrong about that place. It was like Caroline was magnetically drawn to it. Uncle Gary's family fun zone. Like it existed because she believed it existed. I decided at that moment that there was some sort of evil forces in the world that I would never understand. Never. And Caroline was wrapped in it. How was the place real? Like I said, it didn't make any sense. Nothing did. We even explored the place for a while, and it was, Christ, it feels like I'm going back there right now. And I never wanted to go back. Never. That musty smell, those animals that towered over us like monsters. It just, Will, why don't we end this? No, just a little more. There's some things that you should know. I've never seen Caroline so excited. Still haven't. I swear, she was bouncing around that place, wanted to explore every inch. She even pulled me into some horrifying corn maze I thought we'd never get out of. And then we found it. We found the place where the kid had disappeared. Caroline pulled open this hatch in this enormous empty ball pit, and we wiggled through the crawl space that dead-ended. And then we heard something. Someone else was inside the barn. We heard its footstep above us, and it was stomping around. I thought maybe it was the old man, because who else would know we were here? Was it the old man? It wasn't. No way. We were huddled up at the end of the crawl space, and my leg was shaking so bad I thought they would spring free from my body. Caroline held them down for me. She was so calm, just so calm. The hatch opened, and in the dark I saw this figure kind of lean down. It definitely wasn't the old man. It was too skinny. It couldn't have been a person. It just couldn't. So we stared at it from across the crawl space, and at one point I turned to look at Caroline, and she was just watching the thing with this little grin on her face. And that thing kept right on looking and breathing, and then all of a sudden, it kind of sniffed the air, like it was smelling us. And the voice, God, I'll never forget it. It was the voice that was deep and raspy and terrible all at the same time. It said, "Not young enough." Then it slammed down the hatch and it was gone. We waited a while, and when we thought it was safe, we ran back to our cars. Will, if I thought that we'd talk about this, I wouldn't have asked you to do this. I mean, I never intended it for it to be like this. It's fine. It's just someone needed to know, and I'm glad it was you. If I can ask, and you don't have to answer that, it's totally fine. Why are you with her? Why are you married to Caroline? Because someone had to marry her, and it had to be me. Doesn't that make sense? I know what happened at that place. I know that there's evil things in this world that have grabbed hold of her, but she's better. She never wrote that article, never talked about Uncle Gary's family fun zone it since then. I'm not sure if she even remembers it. Maybe the evil is gone. It could be gone forever, but I'm always waiting for it to come back, and that's why. I'll tell you this, but this goes to the grave, yeah? Yeah. She wants to have kids. Caroline wants to have a baby, but it won't be with me. I got a vasectomy years ago, back in college, actually. I won't give her a baby, not after everything that I know, but now she wants one more than anything. She'll find out. If you guys do fertility, the doctors will find out. I know. What will you do then? I don't know. He pauses. I don't know. My original hunch about my interview experiment was correct. There was just something about the microphones in tight space that elicited honesty. What I experienced with Caroline and Will was the rarest forms of honesty, and honesty I hope to never ever experience again. I wanted to rid myself of the entire situation. Even having the audio files just felt wrong, like I was allowing evil to fester, but then I remembered what Will told me. Someone needs to know. So I spent hours transcribing their interviews, dumped the file on a USB drive, and tossed it into a box in my closet. I deleted the audio files from my computer and then put my microphones or recorders out to the curb. It just wasn't worth it. But the purging didn't cure me. I was haunted by Will and Caroline's stories. And it wasn't just the horrific situations they found themselves in as a high schoolers. It was the secrets and lies they've lived with ever since. Will and Caroline came over for dinner a few weeks after the interviews, and it was like nothing was wrong. We drank, we laughed, I watched Will touch the small of Caroline's back, and Caroline gently caressed Will's elbow. It all seemed so frighteningly normal, but I knew what they were living with, and it terrified me. The next day, the doorbell rang. It was Caroline. She'd left her sweater at my place and was here to pick it up. It was my first time being alone with her since the interview. I was worried she'd bring up Uncle Gary's family fun zone, or wanting to have a baby, or she'd again gently broached the topic of me and her and what could have been, or what could be. I just wasn't sure. I retrieved her sweater from the kitchen and walked her to the front door. I tried to read what was going on beneath her eyes, and I looked for a flicker of that evil that Will said grabbed hold of her all those years ago. I didn't see it. I just saw a lonely, sad woman who wanted more out of life than what she was given. We reached the front door, and Caroline looked over towards my living room. Tyler was nestled into the cushions, lost inside the pages of a fantasy book. Caroline smiled longingly at my boy and said note to no one in particular, "Not young enough."
There's nothing worse than leaving a concert or sporting event and having that terrible ringing in your head, or feeling like your ears are stuffed with cotton balls. That's why I use Eargasm high-fidelity earplugs. Eargasm high-fidelity earplugs are perfect for concerts, festivals, sporting events, and even to use to sleep. And you can even add on a metal carrying case, cleaning kit, and much, much more on their website. Free shipping on orders over $100, and a free gift is included on all orders over $75. Get your earplugs today at eargasm.com and use code HERZOG10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Again, that's HERZOG10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Now back to the show.
And that's it.
Excuse me, what the fuck?
I read that at 3 a.m. I have always been under the belief that the devil, the real devil, is part goat. So that story scared the shit out of me. 3 a.m, I went to go take my meds. I was like, there better not be anything in those corners. I'm bringing my flashlight out. The devil is not getting me today.
I'm gonna beat your ass, I swear to God. That was good though. I actually really enjoyed
I know.
that.
I was like, oh my God. I also love the like abandoned secret places stories. So
not young enough. Ooh.
I know. Sorry, that one was really long.
We are, in fact, at 42 minutes of the podcast.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I won't do the other one then. It's
I was
short,
gonna say
but
executive
we
decision.
can save it for another year.
We're gonna do one story each. Our audience
Sorry, everyone.
Here, now our audience here is learning as we go because I had no idea. This is a whole new experiment for me, so it's fine.
I need some water after that.
Go get some water.
It's okay. Shane Top, how do you do this, sir?
I love Shane Top. What a dude.
I know.
Oh my God.
Oh, love.
All right. Well, now it's my turn.
No, I'm just kidding.
No.
You sat through all mine. You don't get to sit through yours.
Nope, not at all. This episode's gonna be way past an hour, folks. So
sorry, everyone.
No, it's it's fine. They just get all the content this week. It's all right.
They're gonna be so tired of our voices after this.
No, hey man, I've gotten a lot of compliments from people that listen to our podcast. They really love what we're doing. So
like my brother.
Other than your brother, actually.
I think he says it. He listens to our podcast every week, and I think he said it like at least 4 times, and we have had 2 episodes out. I'm like, Reed.
Fair enough.
Take a breath there, bud.
All right. Well, I guess it's my turn now. This story actually was posted an hour ago from when we're recording this. It's currently 7:25 on the 15th of June. This was posted an hour ago from then. Your Goofy is the username, the person that wrote the story.
Relatable.
The title is, I work for an organization that contains gods. We had to make a sacrifice this time. Here we go. I work at a facility that contains gods. Or maybe contains isn't the right word. You can't really contain something that existed before the concept of walls. Something that remembers the first fire, the first prayer, the first human who begged for mercy. We don't have an official name, at least not one we're allowed to use. Everyone just calls it CSP. Chain, Seal, Protect. That's our motto, our purpose. And before you ask, no, I am pretty sure you've never heard of us. Nobody has. We don't even appear on government records, maps, or budgets. If we do our jobs correctly, the world never learns we exist. I'm posting this because I don't think anyone will believe me anyway. Well, that, and I've decided to start journaling. Apparently, it's supposed to be healthy. Helps you process your thoughts, organize your feelings, and all that nonsense, but journaling into a notebook sounds boring as hell. No offense to the suburban moms who write 3 pages every morning about their yoga classes and pumpkin spice lattes, but if I'm going to write about my day, I want an audience. And trust me, my days are worth reading about. I love this job. That's probably the weirdest thing you'll ever hear in the story. Most stories like this start with someone who hates their job. They're trapped, desperate, forced into somehow. That's not me. Okay, that's only partially true. I wasn't exactly forced to join CSP, but they didn't give me any other alternatives either. The way they recruit people is actually kind of genius. They don't look for the best candidates, they don't look for the smartest people, the strongest people, or even the most qualified. They look for people who are already half dead. People with no future, people with no family, people nobody would miss. That's what I mean when I say half dead. You're not actually half dead, your heart still beats, you still wake up every morning, but your existence has already faded from the world. Nobody calls, nobody checks in, nobody notices when you're gone for a week or a month or forever. You've already been forgotten, so you might as well be halfway in the grave. That's the kind of people CSP recruits. Because when you work at a facility dedicated to chaining, sealing, and protecting things that shouldn't exist, employee retention isn't exactly great. And if one of us dies, well, it's easier when nobody comes looking. Well, I wasn't always half dead. I had a family once. Not a good one, but a family. Getting into the details would take an entire post and probably trigger another mental breakdown, so let's skip the trauma dump. All I'll say is that I left, and I never looked back. And as far as I'm concerned, even if they all perished, it isn't my problem. After I left, things got worse. I hit rock bottom, tried to end it all, and then ended up under state supervision. Officially, they called it counseling, mandatory sessions, evaluations, therapists asking the same questions in different ways, hoping I'd eventually give them the answer they wanted. It didn't work. Mostly because I lied through every session. At least I thought it was counseling. Turns out, it was recruitment. A few weeks after my treatment had ended, I was taken. Kidnapped is probably the correct word, though. CSP would likely prefer something cleaner, like acquisition or transfer. I woke up in a concrete holding cell with no windows, no clock, and a single metal table. There was a glass vial sitting on it. Across from me sat a man in a gray suit. He gave me 2 options. The first was simple. Drink the vial, a painless death. Quick, clean, guaranteed. The second was employment. Join the facility. At the time, I thought it was some kind of sick joke. Then he explained what CSP actually was, and that's when I learned the real reason nobody knows about the organization. Because once you know it exists, you don't get to leave. You either become part of the facility, or you never leave at all. And despite what you might be thinking, I did not choose the vial. Funny how that works. You can spend years wanting to die, convinced that there's nothing left for you, and then the moment someone gives you a reason to keep going, suddenly death doesn't seem so appealing anymore. Or maybe it wasn't the purpose. Maybe it was pure spite. Part of me wanted to outlive my parents, to keep breathing long enough to know I'll never attend their funerals. Whatever the reason, I signed the contract. That was 2 years ago. Since then, I've been promoted 3 times. Not because I'm exceptional, not because I'm some genius monster hunter or elite operative. I'm just the only idiot left alive to promote. Most of my coworkers are fresh recruits. Every few months, a new batch arrives, looking confused, terrified, or numb. Some think they've joined a secret government agency. Some think they're being punished. A few are actually excited. Those are usually the first ones to die. Out of every 500 recruits, maybe 15 make it past their first year. Of those 15, maybe 5 survive their second. After that, the numbers got so small, nobody bothers tracking them. So either I'm incredibly lucky, or I'm like a cockroach. Ugly, stubborn, and impossible to kill. Personally, I'm betting on the cockroach theory. Before I tell you what happened last week, you need to understand how gods actually work. First, CSP doesn't imprison gods. That's a common misconception. Humans are incapable of imprisoning a god. Trust me, we've tried. When we say a god is contained, what we really mean is that it's being managed, kept satisfied, kept predictable, kept from wandering off and collecting worshippers on its own. How the containment division accomplishes this is beyond me. I work in retrieval, not containment, and I have no interest in transferring. The mortality rate over there makes our department look like a retirement home. I'm one of the 3 heads of the retrieval division. One of the other managers has survived 4 years. The third has survived 3, which basically means they're better cockroaches than I am. Our job is simple in theory. Finding newly emerged gods, negotiate with them, offer them a deal, a place to stay, worshippers, protection from rival entities, and human interference. In exchange, they stop kidnapping people. Most gods don't want to destroy humanity. They just want attention. The problem is that gods attract worship the same way a fire attracts moths. Lost people, lonely people, desperate people. A god will whisper into their dreams, promise them purpose, and before long, they're gone. That's why whenever you see a cluster of mysterious disappearances, odds are good a god is involved. Gods are classified by the number of active worshippers they possess. D class from 500 to 1,000 worshippers. C class 1,000 to 5,000. B class 5,000 to 10,000. A class 10,000 to 20,000. Anything above 20,000 is considered S class, and anything above 500,000 becomes double S class. And anything beyond that, well, humanity stops pretending that it can control it. At CSP, we currently house 2 S-class entities and a single double S-class. The lower classes are so numerous that nobody bothers counting them anymore. Anyway, the reason I'm journaling all this is because my therapist won't stop bothering me. Surprisingly, CSP has its own mental health department now, which is honestly more terrifying than most of the gods. Every month, they drag me into an office, ask me how I'm feeling, and pretend they're surprised when I tell them I'm feeling terrible. Apparently, surviving 2 years in retrieval isn't normal, and the fact that I can casually eat lunch while discussing casualty reports is a sign that I've developed unhealthy coping mechanisms. Their words, not mine. So this is my compromise. I'm not writing in a notebook like some depressed Victorian poet. I'm putting everything here instead. If nothing else, maybe it'll save the next poor idiot who gets recruited. Or maybe it'll just give future psychologists more material to argue about after I inevitably die. Either way, everyone wins. Now, let's get the reason I'm writing this in the first place, with what happened a few hours ago. A new assignment came across our desk. People were disappearing in the Sahara Desert. Now, normally, that wouldn't raise any alarms. Hundreds of people vanish in the Sahara every year. The desert is massive, unforgiving, and very good at hiding bodies. What caught our attention was the increase. Normally, the annual number sits somewhere between 250 and 500 disappearances. Last year, it hit 600. This year, it had already reached 700, and we weren't even halfway through the year. Something was taking them, which usually means a new god has appeared. Our team was dispatched immediately. Unfortunately, I had another problem. I needed a new assistant. Again. I really need a new assistant, Jacob, I said. Well, Jacob is one of the other two cockroaches, managers, I mean. And his name isn't actually Jacob. None of us use our real names here at CSP. It's very particular about keeping our identities separate from the organization. The fewer connections there are between your real life and this place, the better. If something gets out, nobody can trace you back to the facility or the facility back to you. Mine isn't either. I named myself after a hair shampoo I used as a kid. Don't ask me why. It was the first thing that came to my mind when they asked me what name I wanted on the file. Jacob looked up from his paperwork and sighed. No. No? No. And why is that? Because this is your 20th assistant this year. I pointed a finger at him. That statistic is incredibly misleading. How? Because it implies I killed them. Jacob stared at me, and I stared back. Fine, I said. Most of them died on my missions. Exactly. It's not my fault the recruits keep dying. I'm not their mother. That's probably what worries me. I glanced at the clock. 10 minutes until departure. If I missed the helicopter, Jeff would leave without me. The pilot already hated me for reasons that may or may not involve an incident with an ancient fertility god in a fuel truck. Please, Jacob groaned. Fine, take Sean. The young man sitting nearby immediately looked horrified. Jacob shoved him toward me. He's from my division. If he dies, Yeri, I'm not giving you another assistant. Deal. I left before he could change his mind, and Sean hurried after me toward the helipad. The poor guy looked like he was walking toward his execution. Statistically speaking, he kind of was. My retrieval team consists of 56 people. 7 are part of the command team, myself, Sean, and 5 senior operatives responsible for actually negotiating with the gods. The remaining personnel are security. Their job is simple. Get us to the god alive. Keep us alive while we negotiate, and get us back alive afterward. On paper, it sounds easy. In reality, it's usually the hardest part. We arrived at the Giza Pyramid. Normally, the place is packed with tourists, but today, not so much. Our team had the site shut down under the guise of renovations. We entered through a route that public doesn't know about, not the path that leads up to the pyramid, but the one that descends beneath it. The ancient Egyptians were remarkable builders. Unfortunately, something had decided to use their masterpiece as a feeding ground. We encountered the first layer of worshippers near the entrance. They moved wrong. One man had both of his legs bent in directions legs aren't supposed to bend, yet he sprinted toward us anyway. Another dragged himself forward with a broken spine. The security detail opened fire. 10 bodies hit the floor before they got close. We pushed deeper into the tunnels, and the second layer was worse. 50, maybe 60 worshippers rushed us at once. Some crawled across the walls and ceiling like insects. One dropped directly in front of me before Elena, my security captain, put a bullet through its skull. Another came from above. I shot it in the head and it landed at my feet. Move, I shouted. We ran. The third layer was the last known layer, and that's where we found the god. It resembled a massive stone statue stretching from floor to ceiling like the trunk of a gigantic tree. Thousands of worshippers circled it in endless loops, chanting in a language I couldn't understand. I locked eyes with one of them. The problem was, it didn't have any. Only empty sockets stared back at me. The instant it spotted us, a gurgling screech erupted from its throat, a sound so wrong it barely resembled anything human. Then every worshipper in the chamber began screeching. Thousands of voices echoed through the cavern. Greetings, my lord, I said, stepping forward. The intelligence briefing had classified it as a C-class. It wasn't. Not even close. This thing was at least an A-class. Which was a problem because I had brought a C-class team. Greetings, my lord, I repeated. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a voice whispered directly into my ear. Lowly human. I resisted the urge to jump. The thing was at least 50 feet away. What brings you to my sanctuary, human? It asked. We represent an organization dedicated to assisting divine entities. The lie rolled off my tongue so smoothly I almost impressed myself. Still, peaceful containment beats becoming toast. Assisting? The god stared at me. And why would a god such as myself require assistance from lowly humans? Because, my lord, people are going to stop coming here. The god tilted its stone head. And why is that? The pyramid is being renovated. Humans won't be allowed inside for a long time. The god's stone face twisted. Its worshippers began to twitch. No pilgrims? Not for some time. No wanderers? Nothing. No offerings? No. The god's voice sharpened with every question. Then it shrieked. Thousands of worshippers turned toward us at once. Gods are prideful creatures. Deny them admiration for even a single day, and it wounds their ego. Tell them new worshippers will stop coming altogether. The reaction is rarely pleasant. I cleared my throat. That is why we're here, to provide assistance during this unfortunate period. The god fell silent. Continue. The statue leaned forward. Its massive face stopped only a few feet from mine. I could smell incense, blood, and something far older than either. We can provide housing, worshippers, protection, maintenance, and a stable source of followers. And what makes you think I will believe you, little human? I gestured toward the empty entrance. Today's visitor count? The god didn't respond. 0 worshippers arrived today. Still nothing, and tomorrow won't be much better. The statue slowly straightened. I could practically hear it thinking, which was terrifying. God's thinking is usually bad for humans. And what would you demand in return? It finally asked. Very little. Nothing is ever little with humans. Fair. The worshippers resumed their circling, their feet scraping softly against the ancient stone as they moved. I reached into my bag and removed the sealed scroll. We've prepared a formal proposal. Before the god could respond, I handed it to Sean and shoved him forward. Huh? Was all Sean managed to say before he stumbled into one of the worshippers. Several of them immediately grabbed him and dragged him toward the statue while he screamed. The scroll floated from his hands before it reached the ground. The god read it. I have no idea what was written on it. Nobody in Retrieval does. The scrolls arrive concealed from the containment division, and they're written in some ancient language only gods can understand. We aren't allowed to even open them. Rumor says reading one drives humans insane, and I've never been curious enough to test that theory. Quite a proposition, lowly creature, the god snarled. For a moment, I thought it was going to reject the offer. Then it laughed. I accept. And with that, a blinding light filled the chamber, causing all of us to close our eyes. When I opened my eyes, the statue was gone. The worshippers were gone. The cavern was empty. Another successful mission. We returned to the helicopter. I was halfway on board when I realized Sean wasn't with us. I looked around, counted heads, counted again. Still no Sean. I sighed. Sorry, Jacob. I already knew he was going to kill me. Not literally. Probably. But it wasn't my fault. The god had decided to keep him. The entity now resides on a 45th floor of the facility under a long-term containment agreement. Sean lives there too. He's one of the worshippers now. Last I heard, he spends his days walking in circles and chanting in a language nobody understands. Officially, he's listed as alive. Personally, I think that's debatable. Still, that's not what has me irritated. What has me irritated is what was waiting for me when I got back. A new assignment. Apparently, while we were dealing with the pyramids, something showed up in Antarctica. Normally, that wouldn't be my problem. Antarctica is usually containment territory. If something decides to crawl out of the ice, they can be the ones to deal with it. Unfortunately, somebody upstairs disagreed. The report was too thin. Oh, fuck. The report was thin. Too thin. Just 3 pages. A satellite image, casualty estimate, and a single sentence highlighted in red. Possible divine emergence confirmed. Retrieval team required immediately. I remember staring at that sentence for a long time, not because of the assignment, not because of the location, because of the casualty estimate. The last team that went there was erased, never to be seen again. It was a containment division team, and apparently, just because I have a 100% success rate, the people upstairs think this is something I can handle. Side note, I can't. The previous team vanished into thin air, never to be seen again, which means whatever they're going to find in Antarctica already has them. And if that's the case, there's a decent chance my next assistant won't be the only one who dies. Honestly, I should probably get some sleep before we leave. The helicopter departs at 6, so 8 hours from now. At least that means Jacob won't get the chance to kill me. By the time he receives the report, I will be long gone. Antarctica is waiting, and for the first time in a long time, I'm not looking forward to a mission.
Dang.
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
I saw it and I'm like, because, you know, this Reddit is like, you know, it's supposed to be experiencing things that you've whatever. And I'm like, you know, some people will be like, no way, you know, gods aren't real, blah, 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 whatever. But like, you don't know that. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy part. Like, call me a conspiracy theorist, but like, you don't know that. Like, there could totally be this secret, like, organization that is housing these gods, and you'll never know, because even if you stumbled upon a god, you wouldn't be able to live to tell a tale. You'd be dead. So, whole thing, that was good. I like that one a lot.
It's good.
I like that one a lot.
I feel like all of NoSleep is like that. Even I'm like that. Like, I'm not superstitious, but I'm not going to go out of my way to not avoid a poll. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly.
I'm not going to tempt fate. I'm going to follow the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking wow. Yeah, well, it's been an hour. Our longest episode to date, and episode 3. Yeah, I think, you know, I think every couple of weeks we'll probably venture on to r/NoSleep and read a couple of stories and kind of go from there.
That was fun.
Get a little bit of a different taste of the horror genre, but yeah, I think that was a great episode.
It was a good episode. I had a lot of fun with that.
Well, we'll definitely be doing it again. And other than that's it for this week. You know, if you like what you hear, feel free to leave a review, leave 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Music, all the stuff I mentioned before, and give us a follow wherever you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and iHeart Podcasts. We're everywhere. You can't avoid us. We're also on YouTube if that's more your speed. I do intend on doing video at some point. That's a whole different can of worms that I'll open eventually. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. Hopefully, for those who like to like see people and, you know, make pseudo eye contact with those who, you know, exist and stuff like that. But other than that, we hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned. New episodes every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're, you know, loving all the horror stuff, stick around. We've got plenty more to come, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks you guys for tuning in.